Thank you to everybody for joining us here today. We're super excited to be presenting this session to you all today. My name is Kamala Forbes. I'm the Global Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at Pride Global. And I'll be co-presenting this session also with my colleague, Radia Barnes. But before I turn it over to Radia, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about Pride Global and what we do here. So we're a minority-owned human capital company, which means we have several staffing businesses across the IT, professional services, healthcare, and light industrial industries. We are headquartered in New York City with offices around the US, and we also have offices in the UK, in Brazil, in Canada, and in India. Because we're a minority-owned business, which means that the owner of our company is of a diverse background, our commitment to strengthen our community is really strong. It's our efforts of focusing on diversity and inclusion, both internally and externally for ourselves and for our client partners. So with that, I'll turn it over to Radia to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's so nice to be in the presence of so many people. Look how many people have gathered together this afternoon. Thank you so much. I'll just quickly introduce myself so we can get down to the nitty-gritty. My name is Radia Barnes, and I am the Diversity Partnerships Liaison here at Pride Global. Part of my job is to help identify schools, organizations, and nonprofits that serve underrepresented communities who we can partner with to offer career development, vocational training opportunities through our Pride and Education nonprofit. So I work with external partners to bring to Pride Global so we can form great partnerships and help out in the community. I'm going to turn it back over to Camilla, and she will start the presentation.
All right. Thank you. Well, so as I mentioned, I'm the Global Director of DE&I, but let's break down those words. I know they may be words that you're familiar with and you hear a lot about, but sometimes, those words, people don't really necessarily understand exactly what it is. So D is for diversity, and it refers to the representation of people. Now, this could be based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical abilities, religious beliefs, political beliefs, and other ideologies. So when we talk about diversity, it's not just about color or gender, which are some of the common ones that people think about, but it really extends to a broad spectrum of the differences in people. When we talk about equity, it refers to fair practices and policies that ensure that all of the campus community members can thrive, right? Equity is different than equality in that equality implies treating everyone as if their experiences were exactly the same. It's the money part of the equation, fair pay, fair access, and fair treatment. So when you think about that, if you think about everybody getting to the exact same place, we all know that everybody doesn't start the same. People have different circumstances that prevent them from getting to the same place. So it's not about putting in equal effort that would get everybody to the exact same place. We know that we have to have certain things to allow for people to thrive that might not be the same for everybody within that community. And then we talk about inclusion. Inclusion means actively making an effort to understand and appreciate and hold space for our differences in a way that values each and every individual's contribution, while at the same time recognizing and working to eradicate the personal and cultural and institutionalized biases and discrimination that can sometimes put people at a disadvantage, right? This practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have physical or mental disabilities and members of other minority groups. So that should give you a concept of DE&I. And I'll just say one of my favorite quotes that kind of wraps this all up together is one by Verna Myers. And it says, "Diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance." So when you think about that, it's like, yeah, we could have people from all different backgrounds and they could be invited to a party. But how do you make them feel when they get to that party? How do you make sure that they feel included? And in this analogy, it's about being asked to dance. You're like, everybody's on the dance floor, everybody's feeling like they're part of the party. There's nobody sitting over by the punch bowl or, just kind of standing in the corner. Everybody's there, they're thriving, they're enjoying themselves. And then you take that one step further and we talk about equity. Well, equity is ensuring everybody has equal transportation to get to the dance, regardless of where they live. So, it might be great that you got invited to the party. You have that invitation sitting, in your email inbox, or, a physical invitation that was mailed to you. But if there's no way for you to get to that party, you'll never be asked to get on the dance floor. So it's about thinking of all three of those things in the same context and making sure that in any situation, in any job offer, in any campus class or campus activity, that everybody is being included, being asked to dance, and being invited. So with that said, we want this workshop today to be interactive. Please feel free, if you have questions, drop them in the chat, raise your hand, we'll unmute you and you can ask some questions. But we'd like to get you a little involved here and get to know how much you know and what you're thinking of. So I'd like to drop a poll in here, and to access this poll, we'll ask you to either grab your cell phones or you can open a new web page and go to the website pollev.com/PG333. You'll see it written at the top of the slide. We can also drop it in the chat for you. So when you get there, you should see the question that says, what are examples of some diverse groups of people? If anybody has any trouble accessing it, feel free to unmute and let us know, and we could walk you through the instructions again. But it's grabbing opening up a new web page with that website, pollev.com/PG333. Exactly, women. Yes, people who are disabled. People of color, Native American, Hispanic, Latino, women, yes. The school, right? Depending on the school, different types of schools you have like HBCUs that have, those historically Black colleges typically have a diverse group of people. Yes, veterans, it's a great one. Yes, see, this is when we think about it, a lot of times we think about it from a race or a gender perspective, but you have things like single parents, you have age demographics, you have social movements, right? Older person entering the workforce, you have, yep, so going back to age again. Yep, queer, people from the LGBTQ plus community. Yep, people with different gender identities, different races, religion, that's a good one, yes. Great. Well, I think you all get the idea here of exactly what we're talking about. There's so many different demographics of diversity. And right, the rich and the poor. That's exactly another one I was going to say. Your socioeconomic status is something that could put you in a different diverse group from others. So yeah, those are great. All right, so while you're there, we'll just pull up another poll. And the next question I want to just ask you is, as you think back to all of those different types of diversity demographics you just mentioned, do you think that being diverse is an advantage or a disadvantage in today's job market? So if you were applying for a job, would you be happy to let people know that you were maybe an older candidate or maybe a younger candidate than they might traditionally want? Would you be comfortable or think it's an advantage to tell them that you're from the LGBT community or that you're a veteran or, what your socioeconomic status is, whether you're a woman or whether you're from any of those ethnic diverse backgrounds? So what do you think? Is it an advantage or a disadvantage? Okay, and I see Kathy says it's an advantage in looking good to the public. Kathy, you care to unmute and tell us a little bit more about that? Or what's your thought on that? You don't have to if you don't want to, but we want this to be interactive. So if anybody wants to share, we're open to having that conversation. So. And so she says, just because a place is called diverse, it doesn't mean it's accepting of others and different ethnicities. And that's exactly true. And we're going to delve a little deeper into that as we go through this presentation. But that's exactly the part that we talk about when we talk about, the inclusion piece, right? So, okay, so we have about 71% of people who think that it's an advantage to being, to highlighting your diversity or, for being diverse. And only 29% said not. Okay, so the reality is that it actually is an advantage. And we'll go through this session today and lay out a lot of reasons why. And, there are companies that are actually looking for diverse talent. And we're going to highlight today ways that you should highlight your diversity in order to get to land that dream job. All right, so I just want to quickly talk about what are some of the benefits of having a diverse workforce? Like why are companies out there looking for different types of people? And there's so many studies that have been done publicly acknowledging the benefits of having a diverse workforce. For example, increased creativity. When you look, if we just pop over to the next slide for us, please, Nia. Increased creativity. You have people from all different backgrounds working on a project. And you can imagine if we had just everybody of the same, if they were all women working on a project, it might not be as creative if you have men who are there who are giving a totally different perspective. The same thing when we think about productivity. It's one of those things where as you get different people who will come with different ideas and different opinions and they challenge different things. Well, no, I don't think we should do it that way because, I know in my community, if we see something like that, we might not like it or that might be offensive to my community. So you have different things that people who are from different backgrounds will be able to bring to the table. When we look at innovation, exactly the same thing. It's about getting creative products that come from ideas from people that have different backgrounds, that experience things differently. You have improved performance. Once again, these teams that work collaboratively with each other bring different ideas to that table. We're talking about boosting your brand's reputation. If it's only in one community and we hear about it only in one community, well, that's all it's going to know. But what happens if you have all kind of different communities that are learning about this product and knowing that this company is one that has a really great product that's catering to our community as well? It would definitely be a boost for your brand to be able to be more well known in different types of communities. Again, that leads to a better global impact. The more people that know about it, the more that you have ideas and creativity in a product, an innovative product that could serve multiple markets, it makes for a better global impact for your company. Again, it taps into a broader range of skills and experiences on your team because we all know that women have different experiences from men, Blacks have different experiences from whites. So all of these different types of communities, if you're a veteran, you have different skills and trainings. If you're from the LGBTQ plus community, you're different. So again, all of these also lead to increased cultural awareness from these different types of groups. So there are tons of benefits, and we'll highlight some of the stats a little bit later on that companies actually get from delving in and hiring people of all kind of different backgrounds. So I'll tell you a little bit more from my perspective, what I do at Pride Global. In this day and age, we have people that are being hired for jobs, particularly like mine and Radia's, right? We work with in a team that has hired us specifically to come in and focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So in my role, I turn diversity, equity, and inclusion into a practical strategy. And so at Pride Global, we've broken this down into 3 pillars: workforce, workplace, and marketplace. And you'll see how these are very aligned to the same diversity, equity, and inclusion topics that we're talking about. So when you think about diversity, again, that's bringing in people from all different backgrounds. We do that in 2 ways. We look internally at our talent and say, what is the makeup of the people at Pride Global? And our job is to increase the representation of diverse employees at Pride Global. So if we come in and we count and we say we have about 10% of our workforce that's people of color, we might say, okay, well, we want to put strategies in place to make sure that by the end of the year, we have at least 15%. So we're trying to increase those. And not only is this happening at Pride Global, this is happening at every company pretty much across the country right now. There is a huge focus, especially since the murder of George Floyd in 2020. A lot of companies have made public commitments to increasing the diversity of their workforce. That's why it's super important that we highlight our diversity, because companies are out there looking for you, looking for diverse talent. And again, remember that there's so many, this is not just on a race perspective or gender perspective, but if you have any element of diversity, it's great just to highlight that, because companies are looking for you. We, as a staffing company, like I said, we have different lines of staffing. We staff in the healthcare business, for IT, for professional services jobs, light industrial. And these companies that we work with, like Facebook, or now known as Meta, Disney, Nike, Uber, DoorDash, in the financial industry, companies like JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley. These companies are all coming to us and saying, hey, Pride Global, we're looking for diverse talent. And it is our job, as we try to find candidates for them, to present to them and say, hey, yes, these are candidates, and these candidates are diverse. And so this is what as we try to build our pipeline, we are looking for that talent. So make sure that, when we get to the parts, we'll highlight how you should highlight your diversity so that people can find you and you can go ahead and land those dream jobs that you're looking for. As we look at workplace, well, it's one thing if they find you, but what happens if you're a diverse candidate and you walk into your first day on the job and you look around and you don't see anybody that looks like you? It could be a little lonely. It could be like, well, I'm happy to be here. I love my job, but I don't really feel connected here. Or what happens if you're the only one of your race or gender, ethnicity, or sexual orientation in a meeting, and, you speak up and you share your opinion and you don't feel like your opinion is valued, that anybody ever listens to you? All of these things help to make you not feel as included as you sit in that job. And so people end up leaving. Well, companies are working to eradicate that. And they're like, what can I do to make sure that all of my talent feels like they're comfortable here, feel like they're respected? Our job here in the workplace pillar is to make sure that we help with those type of things so that they could find people in the organization, even if it's not the people who don't necessarily look like them. It might be people that have something in common with them, like they may all be veterans, or they may all be from the LGBT plus community. And so while they might not be of the same race or gender, they do have something in common. And we have things that are called employee resource groups that really help with that. And so across a lot of these major organizations, they have these groups that are pretty much like clubs, social clubs, so to speak, that help pair people together so that they find people who have things in common with them. And so there are also things like wanting to promote people of diverse backgrounds, because if you look at a lot of the company's leaderships, a lot of their leaderships might be, males. So in that case, they're trying to find more women to bring into leadership roles. It might be more white people. So they want to bring in more people of color, people from the LGBT community, people with disabilities. So these are things that they're paying attention to try to make sure that they help with promotion and equity opportunities for people of diverse backgrounds. And then the last part of our strategy in incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion is our marketplace pillar. And so a lot of times we hear companies say, oh, we wanted to hire more women or more people of color, but we can't find them. They don't exist. Well, we're like, yeah, they exist. They're out there. There are lots of us out there. You just have to be intentional about looking for them. But we also want to make sure that they are ready for those positions. And so we do workshops just like this and a lot of other workshops that are preparing the next generation of the workforce to be really to be ready for those roles, to show up in the organization in a way that people can't say, oh, well, I wanted to promote this person, but they just didn't have the skill. So we do workshops with different nonprofits and schools and colleges and different communities serving minority talent to be able to make sure that they're ready for the workforce. So that's just to explain to you that there are companies out there that have full departments like ours at Pride that are working on strategies to look for diverse talent, to uplift diverse talent, and to train diverse talent. And so you should definitely know that highlighting your diversity and letting them know that you're diverse will provide more opportunities for them to engage with you. All right. So again, if that wasn't enough to tell you that, you really should be highlighting your diversity because it's an advantage, I'll tell you about an initiative called the 110 Initiative. So the COVID-19 has broadened the income inequality gap in the US, and it's hit communities of color especially hard, right? Thankfully, there's a coalition of more than 24 business leaders from some of New York City's largest companies looking to confront this injustice head on by pledging to hire 100,000 Black, Latino, Asian, and low income workers over the next 10 years. Now, CEOs from 27 major businesses, including JP Morgan Chase, Google, Amazon, Bank of America, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, IBM, and a few others, they announced last year that they formed the New York Jobs CEO Council to help meet this goal of hiring these 100,000 diverse people. The proposed job types range widely by company, but the goal is that these are well-paying jobs, even at the entry level, and that they provide opportunities for growth for these candidates. Right? Similarly, the 110 Initiative is a coalition of leading executives who are coming together to make a commitment to upskill, hire, and advance 1 million Black individuals specifically for this initiative in America over the next 10 years into family sustaining jobs with opportunities for advancement. And so this is, just proof that there are companies out there that have major initiatives that are looking for diverse talent. So I'm just curious to know how many of you, maybe just raise your hand or drop in the chat, yes, if you did. How many of you have heard about this initiative before? Okay, I see a couple. Okay, great. Yeah, I see. So a few people have, not everybody. So good. So maybe this is news to some of you. All right. So that's the thing. We definitely have companies out there that are like really, really searching. They are making these pledges. They're making public commitments. They're putting money behind these initiatives. And so this is now is the time for us to go ahead and highlight it, and again, we will get to some of the real nitty gritty of how you should do that. Okay. Well, what does this mean exactly? We know they're out there looking for us. Well, let me start with what it does not mean. This does not mean because companies are looking for diverse talent that you could just depend on that you could just rest on your laurels and say, okay, they're out there looking for me, so here I am, go ahead and hire me. Well, no. What I'm saying is that if you take all of this information and advice that you're getting from your career centers, from your mentors, from your educators, and you put them into practice, you can make sure that you're ready to compete with the best of them when you're ready to enter the job market. Right? Knowing that your ethnicity won't be a factor, or your gender, or whatever dimension of diversity you have, it won't be a factor that will cause you not to get a job. So there's no reason to hide it. I know many of you might have heard, there are so many things, even just like your name. If you're from a different country or a different background, you might not have the easiest name to pronounce. And so people sometimes try to find, oh, I'm going to find a more easy to pronounce name. And so, or you might just kind of put a different name on there that, is like your nickname. Well, these are the times where we're saying, like, you don't have to do that anymore. This is the time for you to highlight your diversity, to embrace your full self. People talk about bringing your full self to work. Well, this is what we're talking about. This is the time that people are becoming more aware of the fact that they should be intentional about trying to learn how to pronounce your name. So lots more of that coming. But, just to kind of highlight, like, there's a whole new wave of how people are going out to look for diverse talent. And it's called diversity recruiting. So recruiters for all of these major companies have teams of people that are out looking for them. These recruiters now have a new strategy when looking for applicants, and it's called diversity recruiting. I know at Pride Global, we've laid out a new diversity initiative, which is called First Search is Diverse. So anytime we get a job description for a client or for ourselves, we're making sure that we go and try to do job strings and do searches to look for diverse talent. And not just kind of tapping and relying on our network of maybe friends of friends, right? We're being very intentional about looking for diverse candidates. But diversity recruiting across the board is really the practice of hiring candidates using a process that's free from bias for or against any individual or group of candidates. right? It's still a merit-based recruitment system, and it aims to find the best possible candidate. But it's structured to give all applicants, regardless of background, an equal opportunity. And this is not to be confused with quotas. Okay. So recruiters are going around, they're digging into your profiles, they're trying to find out information about you and your hobbies and your interests and what groups you're a part of. And when you connect with them, you should make sure that you highlight some of these things that make you diverse, right? Diverse hiring mitigates unconscious biases that stand in the way of hiring the best candidates, like their race or gender or educational background, or like I just mentioned, it might just be something like your name. If they're like, oh, I can't even pronounce the name of this person, that resume might go into the no pile. And so there are really efforts on training of unconscious bias training that alerts recruiters that, hey, you should really make sure that you are looking through all of the data and the stats of this person's resume before you dismiss them for something like, oh, I've looked at their zip code or their name, or I see that they're a part of this group. So people are being really more intentional as we go through to look for diverse candidates and making sure that they're giving them a fair chance based on just merit. So why is this important? Well, it's the fastest growing trend in the business world, and with good reason, right? In addition to being a good moral choice, diversity recruiting also provides many tangible benefits for performance, innovation, and productivity. Some of the known perks include there's a broader range of skills and experience on your team. There's increased language and cultural awareness. There's a larger and more varied candidate pool. And so if everybody in the organization looks alike and thinks alike and has the same experience and the same upbringing and the same background, they'd be missing out on a lot of the other benefits that we mentioned earlier, to be able to make sure that there's more productivity and creativity and innovation, and cultural awareness and brand awareness on those teams. So if I've, I think, laid out a very good case for why it's super important and how companies are out there actively looking for diverse candidates. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Radia now, and she's going to go through how to highlight and share some of the best practices in order for you to highlight your diversity to recruiters and companies so that they can find you. Over to you, Radia.
Okay, let's dig into this. Thank you, Kamala. So you've learned some of the precursors. Let's really learn how to highlight your diversity. Let's dig in. So there's 3 ways that we have identified that you can highlight your diversity. That's through self-identification, your LinkedIn profile, and through communities that value diversity. So first, let's talk about your LinkedIn profile. I hope that everyone here has a LinkedIn. Of course, we know LinkedIn is the main way that employers and job seekers and employees can be seen and be noticed and can exchange information. So it's very important. I'm sure all of you have LinkedIn profiles, but if you don't, it's definitely a must do. So our LinkedIn profiles, the first thing that is very important is you should have your pronouns. This is a great way to identify yourself. It's a great way to let people know how you want to be referred to as. And those pronouns could be he, him, she, her, they, them. It's what your preference is. But a lot of people, this is a new feature on LinkedIn, and not everyone has utilized it. Myself, I have not, but I'm going to add mine later on today. But it's a great new tool, and I think everyone should take advantage of it. Another thing to put on your LinkedIn profile that you might have not thought about was the groups that you belong to. So if you belong to any groups at schools, any organizations, you really should put that on your profile and let that be known. This can identify, what type of bucket that you may fall into. So definitely make sure to put that on your LinkedIn profile. And I know a lot of times college students may think that they don't have enough information to put on their LinkedIn, or it might look bare. Filling it up with these little details will really make your profile look a lot more robust. And it's any little thing. It doesn't have to be, you're the president of this organization, but if you belong to the organization, you volunteer for the organization, you may, sit on a committee, definitely add that to your profile. The type of college that you go to is also very important, and it can be a good indicator of which bucket that you may fall into. So if you attend a women's college or university, if you attend an HSBCU, definitely put that on there, highlight it loud and proud. Always showcase your university. And if you belong to any industry group, so if you are maybe a student that focuses on tech or media and entertainment, any of those organizations that you may belong to, definitely put that on your profile. It's very, very important. The next way to highlight your diversity, is when you are applying for a position, there are boxes usually at the end of the application that ask you to self-identify. Now, this could be, are you a veteran? Do you have a disability? Some people feel a little iffy about filling out those boxes, but I think it's very important. This helps the recruiter and the company identify what type of applicants that they are interviewing, how many applicants of a certain demographic or race or background are applying. It really helps with the data, and it does not exclude you from being hired. And I think a lot of people sometimes think that that will exclude them and kind of put a barrier up, but it's helpful. So definitely do that. And then another way is through communities that value diversity. So we have a lot of organizations, a lot of committees, a lot of different ways that you can highlight your diversity through the organizations of the communities that you belong to. And just some examples are some groups that highlight underrepresented groups. This could be organizations like the NAACP, the National Urban League, Asian Americans in Media. These are just different type of organizations that focus on underrepresented groups. And if you belong to these groups, it shows that you belong in a certain bucket. Also, diversity job boards. So going through different organizations, different websites, and applying for a job through their job board also will help you fall into a certain bucket. Job referrals through friends, family, people who work at a certain organization that you may be interested in applying to. This will help to streamline the application process and help you to fall into certain buckets. Also, using specialized recruiting companies. There are recruiting companies that focus on certain groups, certain demographics. If you use these type of recruiting companies, that's also in help. If you belong to a sorority or fraternity, this is also something that you should put on your LinkedIn profile, but they also have a lot of job boards and career fairs that you may want to become involved with. You could also get a referral or internship through a targeted group. That could be an organization that you have worked with as a high school student, maybe a community organization that you belong to in your neighborhood. There's also diversity groups on LinkedIn. These are great groups to join. There's groups that meet on certain topics, certain subjects. Women, it might be a group for certain type of religion. So these are also great groups, and I do recommend joining these groups just to get experience in the field that you may be interested in. Diverse career fairs, I think I touched on that, but if an organization, let's just say the NAACP is having a career job fair, that is a great way to get exposure to many different companies, and you know that these companies are targeting a certain demographic, so it's good to always take advantage of these career fairs. Always look for job postings in diverse magazines, websites, and forums. And again, the job boards. And I think it's really important to join organizations and take advantage of everything that they offer. Organizations may offer professional development workshops, but they also have a lot of the times job boards because companies go to these organizations to help them fill their diversity candidate needs. And here's just a few examples of some job boards. So we have something called the Diversity Working, which is one of the largest online diversity job boards. Higher Autism, which is a job board made for individuals on the autism spectrum. Higher Purpose is a job board for veterans and military spouses. Recruit Diversity is a job board for job seekers who have disabilities. 70 Million Jobs is a job board for candidates who have a criminal record. Sisters in Sales is an organization that offers a job board for women of color in sales. And NAMIC, which is the National Association for Multi-Ethnicity and Communications, is a business resource group that offers multi-ethnic candidates professional development and a job board focused on the communications and media industries. So I just want to make sure that everybody is good with that. Do you have any questions? Did I kind of run through the list too fast? Please let me know. I did see somebody drop something in the chat here. Yes, they could be, someone said, are they basically clubs? So they're clubs, groups, organizations. It could be anything small, even if it's, a group that you and your friends have put together and it's focused on, one specific demographic. Definitely highlight that, even if it's something that you have created. Okay, let me see here. Any other questions? I'll move on to the next slide. Okay. And for anybody who doesn't know, I don't know if we touched on it. I know I said ERG, but just to clarify, that is an employee resource group. And employee resource groups are organizations that companies form. They form within the company for specific groups. Here at Pride, we have a women's group. We have a women of color. We have a fatherhood group. We have a group for veterans. And we have a group for multicultural employees. So they're a group that kind of fosters engagement, and employees feel kind of comforted knowing that there's people like them, people who look like them, sound like them, talk like them, where they can feel comfortable and have, kind of a sounding board and people to discuss certain things with. And it's a very good inclusion tool that companies use. So I just wanted to make sure I tapped into that. Okay. So what are some ways that companies are pulling in diverse talent? It's really important that companies pull in diverse talent, and they have to have ways to do it. They want to shine, so to speak. So some ways that they are doing it is offering flexible time off, scheduling policies to include more religious holidays, community events, and etc. So I know my company is giving us Juneteenth off, so which is a new holiday, but it is a way to kind of attract talent, to let them know that, we do take diversity seriously here, and we are giving you the day off for Juneteenth. Another way that companies pull in diverse talent are through those employee resource groups that I just explained. And like I said, employee resource groups really promote inclusion and make the employees feel very welcomed and comforted and included. And also mentorship programs. I know that a lot of times when someone is joining a company or is within a company, they want to feel like they're on the right track, that they're being guided. And a lot of times the mentorship programs are a very good perk, and it's a very, it's a good kind of selling tool for an organization to say that they have a great mentorship program in place. So I know a lot of times when recruiters are speaking to potential employees, they really want to press on the fact that they have these mentorship programs, that they have employee resource groups, and they do honor certain religious holidays and community events. And I'll just give you some quick statistics here. Companies with diverse management teams have 19% higher revenues. Diverse companies are 1.7 times more likely to be innovative leaders in their market segments. 60% of job seekers say diversity is an important factor when considering a company. 85% of CEOs say that having a diverse workforce improved their bottom lines. 66% of companies have strategies for diverse hiring. Diversity and inclusion are considered important issues for 69% of executives. So this is letting you know all these statistics and numbers that I'm throwing at you. Bottom line is, when you have a more diverse organization, the companies are benefiting. The companies are bringing in more money. They're having happier employees and an overall more productivity. So this is not just something that they're just doing and say, you know what, we need to add, make sure we have 5 new Black hires. It's for a reason, and it's definitely helping their bottom line. Okay. Some other interesting facts, and I'll just throw a couple more numbers at you. Companies in the top quartile of gender diversity are 15% more likely to have higher industry financial returns. 66% of companies have strategies for diversity hiring. 57% of recruiters have strategies designed to attract diverse candidates. And 71% of companies say that they want an inclusive culture, but only 12% have reached a level of diversity and inclusion that can be described as mature. So they're working at it. They're trying to get there, but they're not quite there yet. And I'm sure with discussions like this, a lot of things that are happening in the media, we will slowly but surely climb and get to a place where diversity and inclusion is just normal. It's just common. Okay. Is there any questions on any of that? Okay. So I'll move on to the next slide. So in closing, I want everyone to know that you are in the driver's seat. This is your career. This is your career journey. And the companies need you just as much as you need them. Be confident in knowing that. And I know that's something that, when you're job seeking and you're like, I just want to get the job. I just want to get the job. But know that the organizations feel the same way. Like, I need a good candidate. I need a good candidate. So know that, be confident in that, and know that you are in the driver's seat. And always try to, before an interview, try to, say, I am in the driver's seat. I am in control of this. So over 3/4 of job seekers on LinkedIn expect to find diversity, equity, inclusion on the company's LinkedIn profile page or website. So definitely when you're, beginning your job search and you're interested in a company, go to their LinkedIn page, go to their website, make sure that you see a DEI statement or mission on there. And then when you see that, ask the interviewer about it. Ask them about their practices. Ask them about their employee resource groups and their company culture. Ask about any mentorship programs and leadership programs for people of color, for women, for people with disabilities or veterans. Research. Look up the company on their website. Look for any comments or information on Glassdoor. Glassdoor is a website that will show you past employees and current employees their how they feel about the company and how they feel about the company's culture. I think there's also pay information on there as well. And then of course, LinkedIn, which is our best resource for research. Always just do your due diligence, research, and don't be afraid to ask questions during your interview. Is there any questions on that? Let me see here. Yes, someone says, another thing, people are desperate for jobs and sometimes forget that when you're in an interview, the company is interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them as much as you're interviewing them. And that is definitely correct. Don't forget you are in the driver's seat. That's just one of my #1 career pieces of career advice is when you're interviewing, just know that you are in the driver's seat. And someone asked, aren't you the ones asking the questions? Aren't they the ones asking the questions? You should ask questions as well. You should have questions prepared for your interview. You can ask, these diversity questions, but you always should have a list of questions prepared for when you're going into an interview. And that's a whole nother workshop. Maybe we'll come back and talk about that in our interview preparedness workshop, but most definitely always have questions ready. And someone said you mentioned LinkedIn, Glassdoor. Glassdoor, LinkedIn are some great resources. And also the company's website. Anything else? Feel free to drop any questions. Kamala and I are here to answer your questions.
Yes, and Radia, I'll also piggyback on the question that that Kathy asked about, like, the company that you're interviewing, yeah, they're in, maybe you think they're in the driver's seat because they are asking the questions, but you know what it is? You want a job, but they also are looking for talent. They're trying to fill that job. And it's probably more important for them to fill that job because they have work that needs to get done inside that company. You have the option. You could go and work at company A, company B, or company C, but that company needs to fill that position. And they want to fill that position with somebody that's qualified, but also in this day and age when they're looking to see how can they round out their teams. They don't want a team full of women in the IT department, or they don't want a team full of one particular gender, right? They want to bring like all the benefits we already talked about that they get from having a diverse team. So they're being intentional about that. So you want to make sure that, hey, maybe, if I go to interview for a job, I'm a Black female. I'm like, I have, 2 dimensions of diversity right there. Well, I don't want them to hire me because I'm a Black female and I get there and are there any other Black people that work here that I would feel comfortable around? I'm from the Caribbean. I want to know, are there other opportunities to meet people with different cultural backgrounds? So when I'm interviewing, I should be asking questions like that. Do you have employee resource groups here? Like, is your team, is the team that I'll be working on a very diverse team? What do you do to help promote people of color into management positions? So those are questions that on an interview you should be asking to make sure that that's the right company that you want to work in. So you are in the driver's seat because when they look at your resume, again, we talked about you're not resting on your laurels like, hey, I'm a Black female, so I'm just going to get this job. No, I know that I'm qualified. I did the work. I have the experience. I have the technical skills to do this job. But now I get to choose whether I want to work for company A, B, or C, because I know I am qualified to do the job at any of those companies. So I'm starting to interview them. Well, why should I want to come and work here? How am I going to feel when I work there? Am I going to be happy showing up to work every day? So those are the type of questions that you should be asking. And that's what puts you in the driver's seat. And that's what puts you in control.
Most definitely. And to Kathy's question, you may not think you have questions, but come prepared with questions ahead of time. As you're speaking with the interviewer, questions will pop into your head, as you're learning more, but always just have, I would say at least 3 already prepared, written down.
Yes, and to go to Zane's point, I think it says here that at the most interviews, most people would ask if you have any questions before they let you go. And it does look bad if you don't have any questions at all. Think about if you're trying to go and work for a company, you clearly don't know everything about the company. So if you don't have one question that you want to ask, it really isn't a good look. So like Radia said, have 3 questions prepared, and that might be in addition to some things that might come up just based on the conversation, but have 3 standard questions prepared to ask. And also another question, comment here, that's part of interview preparedness. It doesn't have to be on the spot. You can and should prepare questions beforehand, and sometimes based off how the interview went. Exactly. And it can be simple questions like, how is the work-life balance? Exactly. And those are the kind of questions that will tell you about the company culture. Most of what you want to know about the job will probably be in the job description. What am I going to do? What's my day-to-day going to look like? There are, questions that you would probably already know from the job description, but the questions like, what's the work-life balance? They're not necessarily going to tell you that in the job descriptions.
Most definitely. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I must say kudos to Kathy and Asan. Those are great questions that you're posting in the chat and follow up. Way to be engaged. Kudos to both of you. And I will say to the rest of the students, this has been so invaluable So feel free to, come on camera or open your mic if you're able to pose any questions, as we do have a few more minutes. And so don't lose this opportunity to pose those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We appreciate that. Yes, please connect with us on LinkedIn. Feel free to send us any questions. I'm speaking for Kamala. Feel free to send us any questions if you need advice, career advice. That's what we're here for. Let's see, are there any specific?
Yeah, so I can pick up Kennedy's question, the specific ways you can connect us with the recruiters with diversity hiring. So yeah, so again, as we mentioned, we're a staffing company. And so we are always looking, all of the talent that's here today. We don't know what everybody does, but we would love to get to know you and what kind of jobs you're interested in as you get ready to go into the workforce. We have a whole team of recruiters here who are looking for you. And so, again, we encourage you to connect with us on LinkedIn, but even more so after this session, we will send a follow-up email where we'll ask you to upload your resumes. And so if you send us your resumes, then we will connect you directly with our recruiting team here at Pride Global, and they'll be able to reach out to you. They'll connect with you on LinkedIn or email and share more information, about the particular jobs that might be aligned to your particular interests. So please make sure you follow up with, be on the lookout for that follow-up email. Again, Karen, Zavi, anybody at your organization, knows how to get in contact with us as well. So use all of those resources to make sure that you follow up so that we can connect you with whatever. And even if you're not ready for a job now, you have another 2 semesters in school and, but it's still great to just be connected, learn, so that when you are ready, you've already built that relationship with a recruiter. They know what you're looking for. They said, hey, there are 3 companies out here that is looking for your talent, and they could just kind of send you things, even if you're not ready right now, but that you're already looking to see like, oh, okay, well, this job description, I know that maybe I need to brush up on these skills because there's something in this job description that I'm not 100% great at yet. And so maybe that's something that you could just be starting to prep towards as you get ready to enter the job market. So there are lots of ways that you should make sure that you stay in contact, even if you're not ready to hit the job market right now.